It's time for a review of what's making the headlines in the papers this morning. And Dr. Austin Maho is now joining me in the studio. Dr. Maho is a lecturer at the International Institute of Journalism and a member, Nigerian Guild of Editors. Great to have you this Saturday morning.
Yeah, good morning at this
hour. Good to see you.
Yeah, great to be here.
I mean, if you look at the front pages of the national dailies this morning, some stories are constant, such as the NJC. Oh, we do have this day now on the screen. Tinubu preaches peace as 1.7 million voters decide who governs Ondo State. Like I was saying, that story you will find on most of the front pages this morning. But above the masthead, NNPC oil marketers import 1.5 million tons of petrol in 42 days, putting pressure on the naira. Analysts pick holes in FG's 2025 proposed budget. Supreme Court affirms EFCC, ICPC, NFI use powers to investigate, prosecute crimes nationwide, and federal government supports LG's deployment of smart solutions to curb insecurity. The leading photograph on the front page of this day is that of the burial for the late Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Taoreed Lagbaja, and it's captioned, "Late Coas Lagbaja goes home." Let's begin with this day, Dr. Maho. Ondo State today, any moment from now, the polls will open and we are told about 1.7 million voters are to decide who will govern them next. It's a tight race. Some people say two-horse race.
Yeah, a horse race between, some people usually call it the race of the deputies. Let's not forget that Ayedetowa of APC and Ajayi of PDP were once deputies.
Indeed.
To the late Governor Akeredolu. So it will be an interesting race. You know, normally we look at Nigeria and then election and electioneering, you know, voting. It's an entire process. And of course, in all the process, INEC says it has deployed. The police says they are ready. And of course, the candidate have signed a peace accord. So let peace reign. However, we find out that after every elections in Nigeria, like what happened in Ondo, there are always controversies everywhere. And don't forget that Ondo itself will be controversial. If INEC says it's ready, we equally have to watch INEC to be sure that they are able to deliver on their promise.
There are already accusations and counter-accusations as to employment by INEC staff.
That is there. And the terrain of Ondo State, you know, Ondo, about 4 or 5 local governments are in the riverine areas. So what is the deployment? What worries me is that before every election, INEC will always tell you that they are ready. But after the election, the state of their preparedness or readiness is called to questions. It's like what happened in Edo. So that tells me that INEC seems not to be a learning organization. We ought to be seeing improvement after every election. But are we seeing that improvement after every election, or it is getting worse?
Do we solely blame INEC for this?
Yeah.
Even though it's the electoral body, can we really blame them for these recurring problems and challenges we see during the election cycle?
That is why I said it calls to question their state of preparedness. We should see the needle moving forward. Every election should be getting better, for crying out loud, not getting worse.
Indeed.
I can tell you at this hour that after this election, there will be accusation and counter-accusation against INEC. There will be incidents of vote buying, signs of it.
Even though EFCC is deployed? Even
EFCC is deployed. There will be violence, whether it's low-tempo violence or high-tempo violence. And there will be criticism and counter-criticism. And
it's weighing in the courts, and the courts will decide
who
governs.
So the process has never changed. But what we want to see as analysts, as journalists watching the election in Nigeria, is let's see the needle moving towards gradual improvement of the entire process. But a situation where after every election, there's always complaint and all that, it doesn't augur well for the growth of our democracy.
I got your point, that if the elections are conducted free, fair, and transparent, and the contestants we easily accept the result, and then there will be less contention. I get the point. Another story that we should look at very quickly on this day before we move forward is the Supreme Court affirming the anti-graft agencies, including EFCC, ICPC, NFI, use powers to investigate, prosecute crimes nationwide. So technically those states that sued
16 of them.
16 of them have lost. This is the apex court's final decision. What did you take?
Yeah, the controversy stems from Section 12 of the Constitution. in looking at the EFCC Act, whether it is based on a treaty or a convention. And the learned justices have lent their voice to it. And I can read from what they said. They said a treaty is an agreement reached by two or more countries which has to be rectified. Conventions, on the other hand, are agreed by a larger number of nations. Conventions only come into force when a larger number of countries agree. Therefore, the FCC Act, which is not a treaty but a convention, does not need the rectification of the houses of assembly. So, like you said, it has put the matter to rest. So, at times we were baffled by why would the governors be against the EFCC Act?
Who's afraid of the EFCC?
Who is afraid of the EFCC? But at the end of the day, it has been put to rest. If you have nothing to hide, if at the end of your tenure in office, 8 years, 4 years in office, and you are called by the anti-graft agency to come and make clarification on how you spend the resources of your state, you should be happy to do that. But a situation whereby you want to stymie, the work of the anti-graft agency under the guise that,
it's unconstitutional.
Yeah, it's unconstitutional. It's against the provision of Section 12 of the Constitution. It raises eyebrow.
Indeed. Let's move to the Nigerian Tribune now. And there's a story, like I said, these are recurring stories, but let's take some of the stories. Tinubu, Sultan, Ayoko governors, ex-governors, others celebrate Tribune at 75. Congratulations to them. Above the masthead, Tinubu confers posthumous CFR on Lagbaja, and on the right-hand side of the top corner there, NJC retires judges, others want to refund 12-year salaries. Now, when I saw the story yesterday, I chuckled. 12 years salaries and allowances to be refunded by this Cardi. Dr. Maho, can he even do that? Where is he going to get 12 years salaries from? But more importantly is the NJC's decision to put judges and lawyers in check.
Yeah, which is very important. There's this what we call principle of open justice. The judges themselves, when they are delivering judgment or delivering justice, they too are under the scrutiny of the public. And we have been concerned, with some of the judgment coming from our courts. When you take into consideration, look, we say the judiciary is the last hope of the common man. But when you give a judgment in the open, and everybody know that this is not judgment, but politically motivated or financially induced judgment, it put a dent on the whole essence of our democracy. Because when you have a justice system that is not in tune with the basic minimal standard expected of the courts, it puts our democracy in jeopardy. So I am happy that the NJC is alive to its responsibility, because the NJC is there to act as check and balances, watch the activities of the judges, and make sure it conforms with the code of conduct of judicial officers. And where a judge runs foul of it, he should be called to order. And I think that's what has happened in this case. 4 were sanctioned. 1, like you said, the Grand Cadi of Katsina, I think, is meant to refund substantial amount of money, which he has earned. And if you look at some of the accusation against them, you just wonder.
Falsification of age.
For somebody who is supposed to sit in the hallowed, sit as a justice to arbitrate on a case between 2 or more parties. Even you are morally challenged. How did they even get there in the first place? And I think NJC, if you look at it, NJC itself needs to do some in-house cleaning. How could it have taken about 12 years for you to discover that this person
should have retired?
I should have retired and have been drawing salaries for all this time without you knowing about it. The NJC itself is equally on trial.
Indeed. Indeed. Let's go to the leadership weekend. We do have it. NJC sanctions 4 judges for misconduct, age falsification. Northern governors rally lawmakers against tax reforms. Ondo governorship election, Aiyedatiwa, Ajayi, 15 others, no faith today. Respect democratic process, Tinubu tells stakeholders. APC PDP governor storm Akure. Civil society organization raises concerns in 4 local government areas despite heavy security presence. Materials will arrive in all voting centers at 6 a.m., says INEC. I think the new story here we haven't touched is the Northern governors rallying lawmakers against tax reform bills. This conversation has been on for a while.
Yeah, yes.
The presidency insists that this is not to harm anybody, it's for the good of everybody. The tax committee, reform committee, has also been singing that song. But you saw the National Economic Council, made up of the governors, chaired by Vice President Kashim Shettima, tell the president, actually ask him or urge him to withdraw the tax bills. Now we are told the proposed budget for 2025 of 47.9 trillion naira is hinged on some of these bills that have been sent to the National Assembly, including the tax reform bills. What do you think will become of this tax bill, really? The Northern governors have made their stance known. Now they're trying to rally the lawmakers.
And they're not shifting grounds.
They're not shifting grounds.
At least as of today.
Yes.
I think what we need is a political solution. You know, they've raised issue over VAT, where VAT is collected, where VAT ought to be earned, VAT being removed from the federal allocation and being moved to the area of collection. You know, President Tinubu, like we all know, presented four bills on tax reform to the National Assembly. It's an executive bill, and according to the executive, those bills are supposed to streamline, bring our tax collection process in tandem with global best practices, remove incidences of double taxation, and aid easy collection of those taxes. And if you look at it on paper, it's beautiful. It's beautiful, it's nice, it's forward-looking.
Just on paper?
Yes, on paper, but it's, you know, we always say that the devil is in the details. So at times, when you look at a situation like this, the northern governors have their argument, and they've laid it out that, look, if under these circumstances, 2 states are in the front line of benefiting from this tax reform, which is Lagos and Ondo State, they've given instances of companies like MTN, which has their head office in Lagos, Chicken Republic head office in Lagos. But you find out that these companies, they have operations all over the country. So at the end of the day, when you now charge VAT from their head office, it is the place or the primary place where their head office is domiciled is where is at the location where that benefit from the VAT charges. So these are the issues, and I think there's a need, you know, to look for a political solution or to withdraw, you know, to take care of those concerns, the concerns of the northern governors, and represent the bill for easy passage. Because it is now, if all the northern governors are against it,
that's 19 states.
19 states, and of course they will be able to pool their legislatures in the National Assembly,
which have the larger numbers.
We can say the bill is dead on arrival.
Okay. All right. Fingers crossed. Let's see how and if political solution will be the way forward. Very quickly, let's touch on some foreign papers this morning. I see we have the Daily Graphic. The Daily Graphic has this disturbing headline. It does says prostate cancer can't be prevented, unfortunately. And that's coming from experts. Some other international papers this morning. The Financial Times says that Elon Musk and his business interests are featuring on the front page. As you can see, it says the billionaire tycoon is expecting to see a jump in valuations for his businesses. The Daily Graphic, Kemi Badenoch has been interviewed by the paper about her concerns that people are not taking free speech seriously. The Times this morning, the Times is warning about the cost of UK's trade ties with the EU. The newspaper says Stephen Moore, a senior economic advisor to Donald Trump, believes the president-elect is less interested in a free trade deal with the UK if it's moved into closer alignment with the European Union. The Guardian UK, our addiction to junk food is estimated to cost £268 billion a year, and that's for those in the UK. I wonder how much it costs us in Nigeria, Dr. Mao, junk food. If you can put a price to it, that is.
Nobody goes for junk food these days.
Really?
It's just basic food.
Basic food. Junk food's too expensive?
Junk food, the Chicken Republic.
And the likes. We'll not mention names, but okay.
And the likes.
And the likes.
And you know that each time you go there these days. But there's a story here that caught my, which you didn't pay attention to.
Which one is that? Go ahead.
Prostate cancer can't be prevented.
That's Daily Graphic. That's my first story. Okay, so
amazing, isn't it? How do
and that's concerning to you.
Yes, men, the male folk, portion of the population. How can an expert say prostate cancer
can't be prevented?
It's death sentence for the male folk.
Indeed.
Is that what it means?
Possible because...
Because I don't, although I've not read the story in detail,
Yes.
but coming the way it came, if I were the editor of Daily Graphic, I would not put this story on the front.
This headline
because
is scary.
It's scary.
Yes.
What are you trying to achieve by splashing this headline on the front page? What are you trying to say? What are you trying to achieve by saying this? It doesn't make sense. There's no conclusive, as far as I'm concerned, as a man over 40, 45 years old, there's no conclusive report or research that indicates that prostate cancer can't be prevented. There are procedures, there are things you do, there are things you avoid in order to guarantee your prostate health well into your 50s and 60s. So if you are making this kind of statement, you are invariably saying that all men
get ready. Should you have it, there will be no way out.
That you are, what he's saying, that you are going to have it. That is what he's saying.
It can't be prevented.
That is the import of this story. And I think as journalists, Daily Graphic should be careful. You know, when you play with a story like this, you should equally take the pain of balancing it and looking at alternative view. If one expert is saying this, for the sake of balance, get people's opinion to either agree with the statement or in the alternative say no. Because this is the first time I'm coming across a headline of this.
To say that it can't be prevented.
It can't be prevented.
Yeah, but you know, there are also conversations about the cause of cancer generally not being known. Perhaps that's where this editor is coming from, or this story is coming from, to say, because we do not know what causes the cancer, in this instance, prostate cancer, then it can be prevented.
You know, we are no experts. We are just,
yes, we are not.
From what we've read, from what we understand, we are just making conjecture. So what I see is that for a story of this nature, it shouldn't make headline, except you are just being sensational. This is sensational heading that has no scientific... Because
now I'm interested in reading the story and I want to know what it's saying.
What he's trying to say. And if there are contrary views to this, his opinion, to me, it's just an opinion. And it shouldn't make the front page of any newspaper. Because what you are saying is that, look, every man at certain age, 50 and above, we are all going to have prostate cancer. That should scare me. I don't want anybody I know or myself to be a victim of prostate cancer. And I know a lot of healthy men above the age of 50 and above who have no business with prostate cancer whatsoever. So why create this scare in the public that, look, be prepared. You are going to die of prostate cancer at the end of the day.
And that's why we have you teaching journalism, you know, in this age and time. Some sensational headlines. You wonder, how did that get out?
How did it get there?
How did it get there? Thank you so much, Dr. Mal, for analyzing the papers with us today. Unfortunately, that's the time we have on Daybreak. Have a great weekend, of what is left of the weekend. Thank you. And that's all the time we also have on Daybreak this Saturday morning. Thank you so much for watching.